Welcome to the People Teaching People podcast. My name is Tiana Fesh. I'm a mom of three, an educator, a course development consultant, and a lifelong learner. Teaching and learning can take place anytime, anywhere, and in a multitude of ways. The range of knowledge and skills to teach and to learn about are truly limitless. But at the heart of all teaching and learning experiences are the people. The People Teaching People podcast is the place to talk about the who, what, when, where, why, and how of teaching and learning in a world where there is always more to discover. Education plays an important and integral role in all facets of our lives: how we work, do business, live, play, explore, and build relationships. Let's talk teaching and learning together. Welcome to the People Teaching People podcast. Joining me on the podcast are Lusiana Lukman and Wanda Bussiere. I met Lusiana and Wanda in a business group for entrepreneurs who are also moms. They were the mentors assigned to my online accountability group that met each month on Zoom. And on there, we would share our wins, goals, struggles, strategies, and ideas. They created a beautiful sense of community in this group, and I am so grateful for this opportunity to learn more about them and the beautiful community that they have created at their music school. Lusiana, a third-generation teacher, grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia, and moved to Toronto when she was almost 15. She founded the Classical Music Conservatory, known as CMC, back in 1997 when she was still in school for her Masters of Composition at the University of Toronto. Wanda, a former RN in cardiology, always had a passion for music, and after teaching kinder music, an introductory music class out of her local library, together with Lusiana, opened up CMC's second location in 2005 in their own neighborhood. CMC's first location merged with the second after 2 years. Both Lusiana and Wanda are so grateful for the community of students, teachers, and admin that have developed over the last 27 plus years of CMC's existence. They love both living and working in the Toronto Roncesvalles neighborhood. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lusiana and Wanda.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, that's great.
I'm so excited about this conversation, and I'm really glad we were able to make this happen. And I wanted to start off by diving into both of your stories. So music is obviously a huge part of both of your lives, and I'm curious as to what that journey looked like in CMC, so the Classical Music Conservatory, coming to be, and sort of your steps and both of your steps and milestones along the way to coming to where you are now.
Okay. So music has always been a part of my life. I grew up with my mother always singing in the house when she was doing her household chores. And I remember Simon and Garfunkel being one of her favorites to sing, or even whistling around the house. There was always music when I was growing up. And then we were gifted a piano when I was 8, and I started taking lessons. My mom did as well, and my 2 sisters. And I was the only one that actually continued with the lessons. And then when it was time to decide about university, it was either going to be nursing or music. And I actually did choose nursing. And I had always wanted to be a nurse since I was 9, actually. My dad had had open heart surgery, and he had an infection in his leg from when they took the vein out for the bypass surgery. And so a nurse would have to come to the house to clean it and dress it. And I was very curious, and she helped me assist her doing that. And then eventually I was able to do it on my own without her having to come. So nursing was always kind of the thing that I thought I would always be doing. So I did do that. I moved to Toronto, went to University of Toronto, and got a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and ended up getting laid off. But before I did, My big purchase after, becoming an adult and getting my first paychecks was a piano. I bought an upright apartment-sized piano, and it had 85 keys instead of 88. That's why it was called an apartment-sized piano. So being laid off from my nursing job actually brought me back to my passion in music. And I took a course to teach an introductory music program to children, and I did that up the street at the library. I had my 3 kids, and when my daughter was 5, I was looking for a piano teacher. And guess who was recommended to me? Lusiana. So that's how we initially met. And then fast forward to 2005, we opened up CMC together on Roncesvalles. But I'll let Lusiana talk about the start of CMC in 1997.
Well, move to like my how music became to be in my life. My mother was a piano teacher, and my grandmother, my mother's mom, was a math and violin teacher. So I'm third generation teacher in my life, and music has always been in the household that way, in the formal hearing my mother teach every single day. It's kind of funny because then I hear all the sonatas and the sonatinas, and I knew them by heart before I actually played them. And but she started me on piano when I was 3 years old. So I don't remember a day in my life that I didn't know what music notes were. And yeah, she also actually, my mom also started her own music school when I was a teenager. And started, I mean, I've always loved music theory better than performing actually. So I would help her teach her piano students the theory component because I liked it a lot better than she did. And yeah, teaching was always been like something intriguing to me and very satisfying. And then when I came to Canada, I started teaching when I was 17 because it was part of my schooling. I was in the pedagogy and performance for piano. So the pedagogy part being I have to learn how to teach. So I learned by teaching some students in some school and then also privately at home. And basically I grew my own studio at home up to like when I by the time before I started CMC, I had 40 students at home. So when I went on to university and had the 40 students, I just started running out of time to teach everything to everybody, basically, because a lot of my students were doing RCM exams. So the higher levels need like advanced theory and history. And I just was running out of time, like going full time in university and 40 students and yeah, taking care of myself. So basically, I started CMC when I was still going to university because I also knew so many amazing musicians who didn't have good jobs as a teacher. So just put two and two together. The needs there and the people that I knew were there. And yeah, that's how I started. And that was in 1997. And the rest is history.
For both of you, music really has been a part of your story all along. And how interesting, too, that it was a way that connected both of you and also led to you continuing to grow CMC. So, what does CMC look like today?
Well, we now are on our 27th year.
Mhm.
Yes. So it's been a long journey, but it's great because some of my own students have children, and some of them are taking lessons at CMC. And I would say that when Wanda had joined CMC as a partner, a business partner, she brought into it the component that made the community orientedness bloom. Like for me, because I came from the one-on-one lessons and knowing that as a teacher very well, the community as a general, more people coming together and actually having like a waiting area where people are getting to know each other, that's all Wanda. So she can like talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I I love our community. It's something very special. Luciana said, we've been in the neighborhood since 2005, and we also live in the neighborhood, a 10-minute walk to our music school. And there's about 80% of our students who live within walking distance. So it's an amazing community. It's a wonderful neighborhood to live in. And it's been really special to see just the relationships grow over the years, and not only like between the parents, they're waiting for their children in the waiting area and they get to talking over coffee, they exchange phone numbers, and the relationships between the students themselves in our music classes and our summer camps, and then between our teachers too, who have met at CMC and are great friends now. And it's just, yeah, it makes my heart sing just to see all these relationships develop. And yeah, it's just a very special community. And with the new onset of online lessons that we started offering during COVID, and we still offer, we're kind of trying to build that community as well. Students can perform at our online recitals, so they feel part of the community that way. And people who are taking online lessons who live in Toronto have the option of performing at our in-person recitals, which is kind of special if they're only always seeing their teacher online, and then to be able to actually see them in person at the recitals as well.
Well, relationships and community and connection, that's what I'm all about when it comes to teaching and learning. So I love how that piece of what you're doing is really grown and developed and flourished. And you've created, this beautiful community amongst not only, as you said, your students, but with the instructors, with the parents. And I can just, sort of imagine sort of the waiting area being like this social hub, right? Really bringing people together that share that common interest and passion and love for music, which is quite amazing and remarkable. And when, I really find when you create that sense of community, it really helps to create that safe space for learning, because learning anything new is hard.
Yeah.
And it can feel super uncomfortable, and it involves taking, a risk. And so to feel welcome and connected to other people and really supported in that way must make such a huge difference for everyone that's connected to your community. Now, I did some snooping on your website because I love to research and kind of, look more closely at the people that I'm going to be chatting with on my podcast. I mean, I know both of you, but I wanted to do a little bit more digging. And I loved on your website that you highlighted your core beliefs. And the first one was that music enriches our lives. And so I'm just curious as to why you think music is so important in this day and age. And how do you think that music enriches our lives?
We know that there are so many benefits to music: increasing our self-confidence, discipline, the neural connections in our brain, and so helping with memory and math. There's so many benefits like that. But for me, most importantly, I think that music is a healing thing. It heals. And especially in this day and age with our younger generation, having gone through COVID and all the stresses that have come up with that, there's a lot of depression and anxiety and a lot of mental health issues. And music can be so healing in that regard. And even myself, I remember as an angsty teenager going to the piano and playing Beethoven's Pathetique with the big minor chords and getting my emotions out that way. It's an amazing way to express your emotions, and so I find that can be really healing.
For me, being, having taught piano for so long and theory, like I know the learning music, not just listening to music, is so advantageous to humans, because for our humanity, spirituality, and emotional well-being, it connects everything, and it's the thread that goes through all the different aspects that makes us human. It also, it gives us that unspoken universal language that transcends emotions. You don't need words. I mean, yeah, it's great when you have songs with beautiful words, of course, but the logical mathematical patterns that appear in music just simply helps your brain develop more cognitively connected, especially when you're doing this as a daily practice. It also teaches students, young and old, at every age, that the instant gratification is great, but when you're working towards something for a long-term goal, the satisfaction that you get at the end of that is through the process oriented education that you're gaining. So it's not just the result, but it's the process that really enriches you. And I don't know a reason actually that anybody can say not why not to learn music. I totally believe that we should all be learning music, like in every age and stage of our human life. I mean, it's great that we're also developing all this AI stuff, but I would love for us to develop human intelligence a lot more than what we're doing now. I mean, yes, I'm preaching to the choir because you're a teacher as well, but I think, yeah, I mean, like Nietzsche said, right? I mean, life without music is a mistake. I mean, yeah,
And
so
what
that's great.
Luciana was saying about learning at all ages, my mom actually started taking piano lessons last fall. She's 81, and it really does help with your neural connections. And yeah, so any age at all. And even at CMC, our one of our administrators is taking vocal lessons, and our one of our piano teachers is taking guitar lessons. I used to take vocal lessons. Luciana used to take drum kit lessons. So we're all always learning, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you reach a certain age and you're not able to learn or to give it a try or experience something new for the first time when it comes to music. I think that's fantastic that you've got students of all ages and you yourselves are trying different things when it comes to music. My youngest son, one of his teachers, his humanities teachers at school, every year she chooses something new to learn so that she can remember what it's like to be a student and be struggling and
That's
uncomfortable,
great.
which is amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which year's which. I'm drawing a blank now, but I believe last year she did kickboxing and this year she's learning how to play the cello or the other way around. But yes,
Awesome.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's great to kind of role model that learning, but just remember there's never a perfect best or only time that you can start exploring an interest in music.
Mm-hmm.
I did take piano when I was growing up and I wanted to play so badly, and it was like I had to kind of really show my parents, like this is something that I wanted to do and would be committed to and to practice. And I did do band in junior high. I played the tenor saxophone, which I sort of regretted because it was a heavy instrument to carry walking back and forth to school. I thought, oh, maybe I should have stuck with clarinet. And then all three of our kids did take piano. And I would say our youngest was the most interested in piano. And he took a little break and then came back to it. None of them are taking lessons now, but our youngest often will just sit down at the piano and start playing.
Nice.
So yeah, maybe one day he'll want to try something different or start taking some more lessons again. But I think it's such
Mm-hmm.
a great experience to share with our kids and give them an opportunity to try, because you never know. You never know until
Exactly.
you try.
Yep.
Yep.
And speaking of my three unique children, we're each of us obviously are so unique and different, and how we learn best varies so very much. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got many learners in your music community. So how do you support and sort of address the different and unique learning needs and personalities and everything of all the students that you're having so that they can really grow and experience their own personal musical journey?
So we start the journey for everybody by having them fill out a questionnaire where we put the pertinent questions to what do they like, what music they've been listening to or liking, and I mean, obviously, how old they are and whether or not they've had any other musical background, and also their scheduling that can be maintained on a weekly lesson, like regularly. That's really important because I think the perfect fit with a teacher that you click with will just jumpstart that interest. And if you love it, then you would work on it more. And if it intrigues you, you'll work at it and get things to the next level. And every level that they get encouraged, especially when they really like their teacher, they also want to get it done and do it well, then they get more encouraged as they go up the different levels. So we we truly believe that having a good match, which we do, I think, very, very well. I mean, we've been told so many times by people saying, "Oh my goodness, like our teacher is just so perfect for us." And yeah, I mean, sometimes you might have like two kids and they're not with the same teacher because they're different kids. So we do take it with a lot of care to ensure that the perfect fit is what we strive for and make sure that we keep up with them.
And that
Yeah.
their musical goals are also known to the teacher, and the teacher would gear the learning towards what their actual musical goals are. Some kids are loving the exams and want to go that way. Other kids just, want to play for fun and learn and just have the joy of music in their lives without the pressure of doing exams. Everyone's so different.
Yeah.
It's so true. And the fact that you take that time and are so intentional in getting to know your students and what it is they're looking for. And I love that you've, also asked them about their goals, because I think that's so key. Because if you had a student that was interested in learning popular songs and having fun, and they got partnered with a teacher that was all about like exams and you're really pushing forward in that way, that would not be a match at all,
Mm-hmm.
especially for something that's extracurricular. And it really sounds like the goal is to invest time and energy in developing students and their passion for music, their love for music, their joy for music. And if you have that huge mismatch, that's like ending up in, a classroom with a teacher that you just don't get along with. But when it comes to something like music, it's great when you can really get things started off on the right foot. So
Yeah.
sounds like
And
a great setup.
really, it has helped a lot that we're parents.
Mm-hmm.
We have three kids and they're so different. And certainly, I'm not going to name names, but one of them does not like doing exams or anything like that. So, whereas, yeah, the other two, um, they just function differently.
Yeah, I
So,
know.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at my own three kids, and I've talked about like an example, even with swimming lessons. Like one of our kids was like, he knew it was something that he had to do because swimming was a non-negotiable for us. So he just like got it done. And our middle, he liked going to swimming lessons as long as he was with a friend. And then our youngest, he doesn't need to have a friend in class. Like he actually seems to like it. So, and is thinking, he might like to be a swim instructor when he's a little older, right? So three kids, so
So different.
different. Yeah, so you can't just use the one kind of cookie
Yeah,
cutter approach. So yeah, I love that. That's such an integral part of what you do.
totally.
Now, one of the things when I reached out to you and asked you to kind of share some things we could chat about in our conversation, and Luciana, you kind of mentioned it too. Like, we're living in this technological world and we can Google everything and anything these days. And it's funny, even driving our youngest kiddo like to and from swimming, he'll tell me like the newest, greatest, most interesting thing that he's learned recently. And I'm like, let me guess, YouTube University, right? Like yeah. So there's so much that young people are learning online. So you have a music school. And, maybe somebody might say, well, I could just look up a YouTube video on like how to play the guitar, or how to play the piano. So what is the value that a music school and that type of musical learning experience can bring?
Well, you know how like we learn a lot from different things and we learn differently. Everybody learns differently. However, the one thing that is the most crucial is learning from your mistake. and YouTube cannot tell you what you're doing wrong. So yeah, it can show you a cookie cutter. This is how you do thing for that person. In fact, that's one person's opinion. They could be a very professional opinion, but they're not like looking at you and telling you, oh, actually, you should move your hand this way or that way, or actually, your posture is bad right now and you should like sit up. So that real time, in person or online, but real time, not update. You know what I'm trying to say? Just the giving your feedback from your teacher, getting that from your teacher in real life is crucial. So that's the one thing that YouTube is not doing. And I think learning from it, and then knowing how to learn from your mistakes that's being pointed out to you by your teacher in real life is what's going to make you better. And just because you made a mistake once doesn't mean that you're not going to do it again like the following week. So again, having somebody structurally help you at every step, because sometimes you're going to come back and you have a new mistake, then they're again going to tell you that real life feedback is what you can get from one-on-one and not anywhere else really.
And like Luciana said, it's a long journey learning an instrument. It's not instant gratification. So to have someone in front of you giving you that feedback, but also the encouragement and the support to actually continue on this journey to keep you at it is so crucial as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the encouragement is key. That relationship piece again is so important, and you're absolutely right. We learn so much by making mistakes. So when you create that safe space to try things and get uncomfortable and do something new and make a mistake, to get that feedback and then to practice and apply and take that feedback and really do something with it is fantastic. Because if we're not getting that feedback, you're right, you could watch all the YouTube videos in the world and you're just going to be doing the same thing wrong over. There is so much value to being open to that feedback and then being in a space with somebody, as you said, virtually or in person, to get that meaningful feedback and to learn and to grow.
And essentially, really, like by going through these one-on-one lessons, you're learning how to learn.
Yeah.
That person is actually helping you to learn how to learn, right? So
And
that,
it is a process.
yes, it's a process.
And
And it's transferable.
Yes, it is so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. And it is a process. And I think learning is really more about the process than the end point. I mean, the end point's exciting. But when you have your students perform at the recital, like I just know as a teacher or any sort of teaching role I've had, when you kind of get to whatever that sort of marker point is, that celebration of learning, it just fills my heart. And I'm sure it must fill yours, because you know all the steps that happened along the way to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I know that your daughter, Luna, was nominated for a 2023 Juno Award for Alternative Album of the Year, which is very cool and so incredible. So I'm curious as to how music has played a role in your own family.
Well, I was talking before about how my mom would always be singing in the house. And I guess I picked that up because I would always sing with my kids when they were younger. And I think when my daughter was around 2, I was told that our house was like living in a musical because I would sing everything. It's time for bath time. Just anything that we were doing, I'd make up into a song. So I think, like myself growing up, I think my kids always had music around them as well. I would play the guitar with them and sing songs, and then of course with having CMC, our kids were able to take music lessons. So they all took those growing up. And our youngest played the cello. He knew when he was, I think, 3 years old that he wanted to play the cello. And I think it might have been when we took him to the Toronto Symphony, one of the children's concerts. And he saw the cello. And so he ended up playing with the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra, and he's doing computer science in university now, but he always goes back to the cello, which is really nice for him to have that. And then our middle child took lessons in all sorts of different instruments, couldn't really decide what he liked. He finally settled on the drums, and music is still part of his life. He works at our music school in the office, but he'll have some jam sessions with his friends now and then, which is really special. And then, of course, our daughter also is now a professional musician. And so, yeah, I think music was always an integral part of their life.
Yeah, I mean, I remember because Hannah actually started piano lessons with me in the beginning, I have always noticed that she had such a good ear. And I said to Wanda, she should also like start violin lessons. And part of my repertoire of teaching is getting the students to also write music, which, I encourage her as well. The very beginning, I said, listen, like you make up some songs and like next week, bring me just like 4 bars of music, and she would do that, and she really liked it, which is, I think, sparked something in her. And I noticed when she was like a teenager, she was always playing the guitar and whatever instruments was lying around the house, because we have this stuff everywhere. And yeah, that's what she goes to.
I love that so much. And as you're talking and sharing about how music just has been such a part of your kids' lives growing up, and like singing about everything, like I've always wished that life could just have a soundtrack in the background.
You
Like
can
in
live
the
the
movies,
musical.
right? And
Yeah.
we literally had that. I just love that. I love that. So it's fantastic that music has remained a part of each of your kids' lives, and in different ways. That's such a beautiful thing. So, with your music school, which sounds amazing, there are many music schools out there. And obviously, you're in Toronto and I'm here in Calgary. And for people maybe here in Calgary or in other parts of Canada or in different parts of the world, they're looking for an in-person music school for their children. So if people are looking for that type of opportunity for their kids, what are some things that they should be thinking about in terms of the most important aspects of teaching music? Or maybe it's an adult looking for lessons for themselves as well.
Wanda, do you want to start?
Sure. So I think, like Lusiana said, the match between the teacher and the student is so important. So we'd have them fill out the questionnaire. Even our adult students, everyone fills out a questionnaire, what their musical goals are, what their background in music is. So we would match the student with that teacher to ensure that it's a really good fit. So yeah, they should be looking for a school that does do that instead of just automatically fitting them with someone that just fits their schedule and that's it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think finding the right fit is not always like first shot. That you shouldn't just like think, okay, I'm just gonna go and try out a lesson and then see how I feel. If you didn't get a personal recommendation by somebody, or even if you did, try out the different teachers. Don't just try out one. You have to have a good feel that, yeah, this is the person for me, not just their knowledge in music, but who they are as people. They need to be caring and passionate about teaching. I think that's really important. It's not just about quality of teaching, but it's a quality of the experience, because it is a long journey. You want it to be like your second home. I mean, I was very fortunate that when I was growing up, the music school that my mom happened to be teaching before she started her own music school was like a second home to me. Like I was there 2, 3 times a week, and the teachers that I've had there, I've had 13 piano teachers in my lifetime, because some of them I went to them once and then I said to my mom afterwards, nope, not it. And yeah, and she was respectful enough to know, because she was a teacher as well, and she doesn't take every student that she is assigned to, and she understood that finding the right person for you, I was like, I mean, I wouldn't say that you're becoming friends, but you sort of have to have a good relationship with the person that is going to be your one-on-one music teacher. So
Mhm.
take the time and find a caring teacher.
Finding that fit, trusting those
Mhm.
feelings and finding that fit. And I like to, Wanda, how you highlighted like looking to see how the school or music teacher kind of seeks to find out information about yourself or your child, showing that they too have that curiosity in finding fit and alignment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
funny, Luciana, that you said you had all these different music teachers, but our youngest, he had started with the same piano teacher that our older two had, and then he kind of said, just kind of isn't a fit for me. And so we shifted, and he wanted to play songs that were more like popular songs and songs that he was hearing on the radio or songs
Yeah.
from movies. And that's kind of where he was at. And we, wanted to support that passion
Yeah.
continuing or that
Mhm.
interest
Sure.
continuing. So I think, yeah, listening to your child or listening to those nudges and feelings that you're getting about fit, because sometimes it can change too over time a little bit what you're looking for and where that alignment is.
For
That's
sure.
great advice from both of you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, I had asked you to share some of your FAQs with me. And one of the ones that you shared, I think, is one that a lot of parents wonder about. And that's, what age should my child start taking private music lessons or even group music lessons? So I'm curious as to how you might respond to those questions and what your thoughts are on that.
Mhm. That's a very common question. Parents tend to want that specific age, but we really think it depends on the child. Every single child is so unique. And that's one of the reasons why we do offer a free trial lesson. So, especially for younger children, yeah, it could be they were ready at 4 or age 7 or 8. It really depends. So, when they meet with the teacher would assess, their attention span, if they're ready socially to have a one-on-one lesson, if they're committed to practicing daily, even just 5 minutes a day on their instrument. So they do this assessment with the student just to see if they really are ready for lessons. So we actually don't give a specific age because every child is unique in that respect. Yeah, so we would just offer the free trial lesson. And for students who aren't quite sure, some students like our son Lucas, who knew when he was 3 he wanted to play the cello. If children aren't really drawn towards a specific instrument, we would recommend the piano. And piano is an instrument where it does have that instant gratification of a good sound when you press it. Unlike learning the violin or the cello, it does take quite a while to get a good sound out of those instruments. And what they're learning on the piano can be transferred to other instruments if they eventually want to take another instrument.
I mean, mind you, there are some instruments that are not conducive to younger children. Like, you can't start a brass instrument at age 3. No matter
Right.
how ready you are, you just don't have the lung capacity to blow
Mm-hmm.
into a tuba. So, certain
Yeah.
instruments do need the students to be older and
Mhm.
have the physical ability to either stand up or blow into it, or like, yeah, even drum kit. Yes, they have like smaller drum kits and stuff like that, but again, to have a proper drum kit, you need the kid to be like 8 years old, for example. Or yeah, for like even a clarinet, there's a reason why schools don't start that until middle school, because again, the capacity of blowing into this very specific hole to make the right sound, it takes a certain control and physical readiness.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but certainly piano, violin, cello, those instruments have been known to be quite successfully learned by students who are ready as early as 3 years old. Again, mind you, the younger the child is starting an instrument means the more involvement that the parents have to give as well. So they also need to be ready to be committed. And if their lives does not allow that, then they need to wait because their schedule does not allow that. So
That's a
yeah.
good caveat. It takes a
So
village. It
yes,
takes a
for sure.
village. Yeah,
Totally does.
Sure.
absolutely. And then, as you said, like the developmental considerations, but also just where your specific child is at in terms of
Mm-hmm.
their interest, commitment, their own readiness, right? Is it them who's
Yeah.
wanting to start the lessons?
Exactly.
Or is it somebody else who might be keen for them to start? Yeah, so lots of pieces of the puzzle. So unfortunately for that FAQ, there just isn't an easy
Correct.
answer. As there is with most good questions, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to look back into a little bit more into both of your personal stories. So, we've talked a lot about teaching and learning and your experiences with music. So, I'm curious for each of you, do you have a favorite teacher or favorite learning experience that you've had? And why would that person or experience really stand out for each of you?
As I said earlier, I've had 13 piano teachers. My last piano teacher in Indonesia was stood out as one of my favorite piano teacher. Her name is Ibu Irawati M. Sudiarso. She actually recently passed away, but she stood up in my mind because she allowed me to believe in myself and to be myself. She was a very prominent pianist and teacher, and happens to be also the mother of one of my oldest friend, because I met her daughter when we were both about 2 years old. And she knew that I wasn't going to become like a concert pianist because, well, many reasons. But in any case, when I entered into like composition at U of T, it kind of like clicked that the things that she was teaching me and making me believe in myself, opening my eyes to different composers that she brought to my attention, had made the seed planted when I was like 13, 14, when I was with her. And I felt very honored that one of my compositions I actually dedicated to her was played in honor of her last year. Yeah, which is a huge honor for
Mhm.
me to see that even though I wasn't with her for a very long time, we both made a difference in each other's lives.
For me, I would say my former choir director, I was part of a church choir. Her name is Diane Leah, and everyone was scared of her. She was quite strict, but she had the biggest heart. And like Luciana said, she helped us believe in ourselves. She would give us this really hard music to learn, and everyone rose up to the challenge because she did believe in us. And I think that was a huge thing, having someone believe in you, and then you have the confidence and to rise up to the challenge. So I would say it helped me believe in myself.
Yeah, both beautiful stories of your favorite teachers, and it is quite incredible how those people can really stick with us. And it's so much about like the feelings more than the facts or the things that they taught us, but how they made us feel. And in both of your cases, how they really help both of you to believe in yourselves.
Yeah.
And Luciana, how special that a song that you compose got to be played for your
Mm-hmm.
teacher. hmm
Yeah, for sure.
Now, again, looking back, when you look back at both of your journeys and all the things that you've accomplished and done along the way, is there something that stands out for each of you that you're the most proud of?
For me, I would say the sense of community that we've developed at CMC. Like you said, it takes a village, and I'm so grateful for our village of our students and our parents and our admin team and our teachers. It's so special just to see all the relationships that have developed over the years, and long-term relationships. Like Luciana said, one of her old students is back with her kids taking lessons. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and for me, definitely the one-on-one relationship I've had with so many of my piano students and theory students. I mean, some of them are 30 years back and they're still keeping in touch with me. And one of the poignant, other than the student who's bringing back her own kids, is David, one of my old students. And he actually like made a point of telling me that when he got a new condo, that one of the first things he bought was an electric piano because he wanted to have that to keep on playing. I mean, he's not a musician, but he has his PhD in like phys ed and like making his own formula for like health proteins and stuff like that. But that it was important for him to have a piano at his place. That really touched me. Yeah. Like I knew that I've done a good job.
Well, and I love that he wanted to tell you that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So how amazing that, you've had this community growing over the past 27 years. And as you said, now you have your students' children taking lessons, which speaks to the impact you had on their parent, right? That they would want their kids to share in the experience that they had. And then to have people come back and let you know the impact that that's had on their lives. And they want to come and let you know how music is continuing to be a part of their life and to stay connected with you in that way. It's pretty special.
Thank you.
So now I have some rapid fire questions for you. So this is my opportunity to pick your brains because I live very much by a beg, borrow, steal philosophy. So I love getting ideas from people and adding them to my list and hopefully adding them to other people's lists too. So what is something that you would each love to learn about or something that you would love to learn how to do?
For me, it's easy. I need to learn to tread water. I've only learned how to float this past January in Turks and Caicos because relaxing is kind of hard for me. To actually being able to just relax and float was mind blowing.
You've got this. You've got this.
And for me, we are becoming more hands off with the running of CMC. So I have a little bit of free time. And so I've always been interested in palliative and hospice care. So I'd like to take a course in that and volunteer down the street at our local hospital. It's 5 minutes away. So that's what I'm going to be looking into.
Both sound very interesting. So Lusiana's going to be busy treading water. And you're going to be volunteering your time and then sharing stories afterwards. I love it. And it's great to hear that you've got, that time and space, right? To kind of take that pause and think about like, what are the things that I want to do and try and put in some time and practice, like always learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you both do a lot of traveling, but what is a place that's at the top of your travel bucket list?
For me, it's more of Canada, actually. We have a beautiful country, and I've never been to Newfoundland, Northwest Territories, so I would love to see more of Canada.
For me, it's not a spot, but I would love to witness in real life, in person, the Aurora Borealis. But I want to be able to be warm. So, have you seen it? Do you see it in Calgary?
I have seen it. Yes. I'm trying to think temperature wise. We might need to do a little research on that. Not as spectacular, like as I think, like there's like the spectacular viewing of the Northern Lights, but I don't, yeah. So I think we need to do a little bit of research for you on where and at what temperature. What's your temperature range?
Where were you?
Just outside of Calgary.
Okay.
Mhm.
Amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's not like a common thing, but yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't think you could bank on that option if you want the best view.
Okay.
You might have to bundle or wear like heated socks or something. What is a book, podcast, movie, or TV show that you've enjoyed recently?
Go ahead, Luciana.
Okay, so book. I have three answers. Sorry. The last book that was really impactful was a book by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry called What Happened to You. So it's about dealing with trauma and all the things around that, and like things that you might not think have affected you as greatly, that has made a difference, but also how you learn from each of these things. Podcasts, I like your podcast. Obviously, we've started listening to many episodes because you have such a personality that just draws us in. But I also like Money Feels. It's with by these two women, and a lot of people don't talk about money quite so openly, especially women. And I've always been interested in finance and investing, so it's a different type of money podcast. So I like that. And TV show, we just finished the fourth season of True Detectives with Jodie Foster. So yeah, it was really good.
Well, I have a whole bunch of things to add to my list. So Wanda, keep adding, keep adding.
So, a book I've recently read is called Signs, The Secret Language of the Universe. And it's by a medium, Laura Lynn Jackson. It's very interesting about how we can all receive signs from people who have passed, and how we all have our own team of light that's always looking out for us. Yeah, really interesting case studies that she talks about. And since then, my dad passed away when he was 55. I think I'd mentioned he had that quadruple bypass when he was 37. So he lived until he was 55. And now I receive signs from him now that I have put them out into the universe. It's a very interesting book. And if you believe in that sort of thing. Yeah.
I am open. I am open. Like I feel the more curious you can be and the more open you are. If you just
Mm-hmm.
decide right away that something, isn't possible, it's better to go in with that curious mindset and wanting to
Mm-hmm.
learn and understand more. That book sounds fascinating.
Yes. And I hear that a lot we have been listening to your podcast. You talk a lot about curiosity and how that opens us up. And today I get a quote that's emailed to me every day from Grateful Living. And today was a quote from Michelle Obama, and it reminded me of you actually with your curiosity. And it was, "The unknown is when possibility glitters." So
I love
the unknown
that.
is when possibility glitters. I loved that. So
Ooh, I really like that. Thank you. And my last probing question, is if you could sit down and have a conversation with someone that you would love to learn from, who would it be and why?
So I would say my dad. He has passed on, but yeah, he was a very wise person, great sense of humor, and very spiritual as well. So that's who I would love to sit down
I'd love to talk to God. I have so many questions.
with.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if we could sit down and ask those questions of the people that we can't ask them to
Mm-hmm.
directly, right? And then ask those bigger questions about the universe and the world and
Mm-hmm.
and get those answers. Now, I always talk about how education is so very much a part of everything that we do, and clearly a huge part of all the work and magic that you do with music in your community. Well, from both of you, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to share that could empower or support people with their own teaching or learning journeys?
I would say believe in yourself. It's a huge thing. Trust the journey. Yeah. And just experience the joy in learning and in teaching.
For me, I would say if you're a teacher, God bless you. Please keep on being a good teacher, a good person, a caring teacher, because the world needs you. And whether or not you get a thank you or any sign of appreciation, just know that you are affecting people's lives for the long run. And just daily and whatever, just be in the now to see that you are reaching out to your students, whether or not they show it, they are appreciating you and you are being appreciated, even without words, somewhere, sometime. So keep on being a great teacher.
Thank you both so much. Wanda, Lusiana, this was so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time today to share your stories, your wisdom. If our listeners want to learn more about you both and all the things that you are up to, where are the best places to find you?
Our website is cmccanada.com. And if you're looking for lessons, check us out. You can always email us and reach us at cmc@cmccanada.com. Even if you want to email one of us directly, just email that and we'll be sure to get the email and answer your questions.
Well, thank you again both so much for joining me today. It was great to connect with you and to learn from you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much.
having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the People Teaching People podcast. I'm your host, Tiana Fesh. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Tiana Fesh and on my website, tianafesh.com. I would love it if you would subscribe to, rate, and review this podcast. Your feedback and support are so appreciated. See you next time, where we will continue to explore all things teaching and learning together.